Hey, I'm Jason Harrell.
And I'm Justin Boyd.
And let's freaking do this.
Welcome to episode number 11 of Let's Freaking Do This. My name is Justin Boyd, and I am once again joined by my good friend Jason Harrell, also a musician. Jason, how you doing today?
Doing good. Episode number 11.
Number 11. We're in double figures now. So
wow.
Yeah.
We're on a roll now.
The little podcast that could. Or, we'll see. The little podcast that's in progress. I guess we'll say that. So, Jason, we have a special guest tonight. You want to introduce us to who we're going to be talking to?
Yeah, we've got James Gedda. James is from Crown Point, Indiana, country and Americana singer-songwriter. Just met him tonight. So how's it going, James?
It's going pretty good. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, James, so you're in Crown Point, Indiana, which is, I looked it up. You're like, what, 50 miles south of Chicago?
Yeah. It's basically, more Chicago than Indiana. Like we're the one county in Indiana that votes blue. Okay. We get all Chicago TV stations. Most people root for the Bears versus the Colts. And even when it comes time to be like, election season, all that, we get Chicago and Illinois political ads.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's basically,
So you're Northwest Indiana is.
Yes, sir.
Basically, yeah. Okay. I'm familiar with that territory. So how is being, we're based in Texas. I'm in Houston. Mm-hmm. Jason's in the Austin area. How is the music scene in the Midwest? Have you played in Texas? How does that compare to the Midwest?
Texas is still on my bucket list for sure. Places I want to play. In general, I want to, next year I want to get out a lot further out. I've never played in Texas, but like anytime someone's come to a gig that's from Texas, especially from like the Austin area or whatever, they'll hear me doing like Towns Van Zandt or Blaze Foley or some of my originals, and they'll just be like, "Oh, you got to get down there." I'm like, "I know, just it's like a 2-day drive and a bunch of gas, but yeah, I'll get down there eventually." Just been trying to make more contacts. I just got real close a few months ago. I played down in Oklahoma for a couple of days with Matt Moran, sorry, but just got to talking to him on Twitter, and I tried sending him some leads for some places to play up here, and he hooked me up with a couple of dates down there with him, and that worked out pretty good. But it was a good reminder of like, right, this is the direction I need to go, is traveling out further, but in general more Southwest for sure. Yeah. But in comparing the two, there's a good music scene around here. It's just extremely eclectic, especially in this area. We get a lot of Chicago style blues jams and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like my lead guitar player, Jack Whittle, one of my best friends, he does his own thing, and it's like a blues trio, and he's killer at it. But then there's also a whole jam scene around here. Like some of my best friends in music I met at basically like Grateful Dead, Fish style jam nights, and that's where I learned to cut my teeth, learned to appreciate improvisational stuff a little more. I still won't play a 9-minute song myself, but God bless them. But there's definitely an appreciation for it. I stick out more up here. I'm kind of the token old school country guy. There's a few other folks, and definitely some people that do more like the contemporary radio style country as well. But we get a little bit of everything up here.
Yeah. I would think you also probably stand out because of your voice. You have a very unique, like, baritone voice.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it definitely is attention getting, because you probably can't tell just by like looking at me on here, but like I'm not the biggest guy. I'm like 5'8" or so, but my voice is about 6.5 feet tall. So
it is for sure.
Attention for sure. What's that old little Jimmy Dickens song? I'm little, but I'm loud.
Right.
Yeah.
We were talking about like you doing Elvis songs earlier, and some of the comparisons, I guess you said that you sometimes get.
Yeah.
In the pre-show, by the way, the pre-show.
Yeah. Pre-show.
Yeah, because we actually do have a little bit of a conversation before we go live, which is probably shocking. Shocking. Yeah. Really we put on this facade like we're just welcome.
We're total phonies. Yeah.
Total phonies.
VH1 behind the podcast.
Right. Like it's going to be so controversial when it comes out, because they're going to there'll be camera crews showing all the lines of coke that I do right before we go on air.
So many lines.
So many lines, yeah.
And they're not like, they should be like, horizontal. They're like perpendicular. Like it's kind of crazy what you're doing over there.
It's like tic-tac-toe with cocaine.
Yeah. I've known you for a long time. I can't stop you. So it's like, just live your life.
Like when I saw the pentagram of coke, I was like, that's a little much. Like, I get it. Like,
I'm a creative type, all right.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say the first thing I thought of when I heard your voice was a Texas guy named Brandon Jenkins. I don't know if you're familiar with Brandon Jenkins.
That's a new one. No, I'll have to familiarize myself for sure.
Yeah, honestly, I can't remember exactly what year he passed away. He passed away maybe in 2017, 16, something like that. But he was kind of a rising star, I would say. And he had some like medical complications and passed away. But he had some really great songs, and that voice, he had that baritone voice. That stood out, I think, in the Texas scene at least.
Yeah.
But like, you just remind me of him. But
oh, thanks. Yeah, Brendan Jenkins. I'll have to look him up. Yeah, because I'm always down for new stuff to listen to and songs I don't have to change the key to sing.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you could pull his songs off.
Yeah.
And James,
he co-wrote a song with what's his name? My Feet Don't Touch the Ground with what's that guy's name?
It's right there. Yeah. I
can't even remember his name. He's a big deal. Anyway, whatever. Yeah. Sorry.
And James, with your voice, have you done any kind of radio or like voiceover work?
No,
I've thought about, or
I've definitely thought about it, like, or tried to get into some type of voiceover stuff, but it's just like as when I've looked into it, it's like that's a whole other hustle, right? To where it's like, you got to network in that scene, and you got to, like with music, you got to take bad gigs for doing that just to build a portfolio. And I keep thinking about it, pulling the trigger on it, because it's definitely a lot easier to talk for a while on end than sing. But if I can figure out a good way to do both, and I'm sure it's there, it's just finding a good way to divide up the workflow in terms of pursuing this and pursuing that. But I always wanted to do that, but never something I've done yet.
Yeah, that's the first thing that Justin mentioned to me, is that he felt like you probably could do some voice acting, voiceover work type stuff.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you guys need somebody to introduce the podcast, if you want to change up the intro, I'm happy to do it for a nominal fee. Even.
For a nominal fee.
That's an idea right there. No, honestly, I was thinking like an audio book, because the reason why is because like in your music, and I'm not a musician, so I don't know necessarily what the term of this is, but you do a lot of the talking in the song, and I'm sure there's a term for that. But what is it about that style that you like or you prefer? Because that is a style, correct? I mean,
it's definitely like something between like the old like talking blues folk songs, and then you get even like the Hank Williams Sr. style, like recitations, right? Like the Luke the Drifter kind of stuff. It's definitely not a preference, but it's something I've been trying to do more of, in a way, to lean into, my speaking voice and stuff like that. But it's also, it changes the way you approach a song. I have a song I can do here at some point, but it's in the old talking blues style about trying to make a living as a local musician. And it allows you to focus more on kind of the wit. Like I have a hard time like doing like, okay, good lyrics and melody and finding a way to make it kind of funny, but it's a little easier if I'm just talking out and I don't have to worry as much about melody. And it's just, it's a good change of pace if you're playing a set, it's like, doing a lot of singing and this and that. And then all of a sudden, well, now he's just finger picking and talking, and it almost makes people listen to you a little closer, and you can play with your cadences differently and all that. I enjoy it. And then, there's also, the more serious side of it, right? You get in certain like Guy Clark songs that I really enjoy. So it's just another tool in the tool bag,
Yeah, we've actually talked. I don't remember who we talked to about this particular aspect of what used to be far more commonplace with country music, where they would have like almost like a bridge type thing where they're talking through it.
Right, like in
George
the
Strait.
old Bobby Bear, like Detroit City, he does a whole verse like talking. There's like there was a lot of stuff like that. Yeah,
It's like when you get real serious, that's when you do the talking part.
right. Yeah,
But
yeah.
like
Listen, we've had some fun here, but now I'm going to start talking. Yeah,
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's I've tried to cover songs in the past that had those parts,
Mhm.
and I think I just kind of skipped the talking parts because to
Right.
me it requires more confidence, I think, to be able
Yeah.
to shift into those spoken parts.
Oh, for sure.
Because like you talk about like not having to add in the melody, but there's the whole phrasing thing, so that
Yes,
the
that
way
is
you have
weird.
to
Timing
phrase
it
it
out
and
is hard.
timing
Yeah.
so that you don't come across like you're making a joke,
Right.
especially if it's supposed to be a more serious,
Yeah. Yeah, that part's tricky for sure. I had a thought in my head. It left. Never mind. But it did take me a bit to get used to timing it out. And like still, I usually only do that stuff solo acoustic, because if I have to like keep time with the band and a drummer and everything else, then it makes it trickier to make sure I'm getting all the words in the right spot. So that's something I pretty much just do on my solo stuff or like with a duo. But if there's a rhythm section, it's definitely a little harder to get in there.
Yeah, to me it seems like it's very performative, but also one thing I like about it is it kind of gives your music kind of an old school kind of feel. But then like what you're talking about is very like modern, like you're talking about texting people, late at night or whatever. So I think that's I don't know, it's cool that you kind of juxtapose like this like old school style with what's happening in the current world. So
right. I think that gets down to one of my philosophies about like roots, Americana, country music, whatever you want to call it, is like I like thematically, yes, stylistically, yes, but in terms of subject matter, no. It's like I'm not going to pretend to sing about working in a damn field or something like that, right? Or this and that. No, it's like I'm gonna sing about my kind of problems, right? Like being in a small town, not quite grown up, not quite little anymore, and being insecure about texting people back and all that. Yeah, no, that's I like the sound, but I don't like when some people, it becomes almost like a Mad Lib, with country music, right? And that's a lot of the radio stuff these days sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because there are some of those guys who I say guys, generically, but those people who are kind of living that life, who can legitimately sing about essentially being a cowboy. Like,
right. I have no doubt in my mind that Coulter Wall could work me under the table. Right. That's
right.
He's allowed.
I think that's what he said when he decided he was not going to go on tour, go on tours anymore. He's like, I'm just going to go be a cowboy and record some songs too.
Right.
Like, yeah. Makes
for
sense.
Sure.
But yeah, no. And there's also, it seems like, this whole cottage industry of songwriters just trying to be that, which,
right.
Look around you. We know that you're not, like, there aren't that many cowboys around us.
Yeah. And, even, I could get into a whole diatribe about this, but even the whole like cowboy hat side of country music comes from a pastiche, right? It comes from like Hank Williams Sr. and people like that wanting to look like the movie cowboys, which are in and of itself like a bastardization of what actual Western life was like. It's just it's 3 or 4 levels of subversion and copying and aping and this and that, to the point where now it's like, well, I got to wear a cowboy hat just because it's what you do. It's the uniform, right? Like, yeah.
And it was Joshua Headley. I remember a little while back seeing him going on Twitter about how at first he was saying like he would never wear cowboy boots or whatever. And he started posting about like, okay, I finally got myself some cowboy boots and they fucking suck and I hate them.
Yeah. I got one pair for like a Halloween gig last year. I kind of want to dress up a little bit like Waylon Jennings, and it was just they're probably not that good either. I just ordered them off Amazon, but square toe, really uncomfortable. Like so I don't wear them. It's like
cowboy boots generally aren't that comfortable.
Yeah,
I mean the convenience of just pulling them on your feet, I guess, is one thing that they probably have, and also they're durable and very like rough and rugged, so you can go through the brush or whatever the hell you're going through, and it's not gonna tear up your legs or whatever. But
yeah,
I got some cowboy boots, but I have one pair, and
Yeah.
I think I got them because I was playing
down
country
there.
shows.
Y'all get them when you renew your license, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I have pictures of my brother and I when we were kids and we were playing in country, like, you know, these little country bands when I was like 9, 10 years old. And we were all done up in the whole like cowboy hat and the bolo ties and boots and the big belt buckles and everything.
Yeah.
It's just a thing. Just what you do when you.
Right. I get it. Yeah.
So, James, the timing of you being on our show this week it works out pretty well for you and for us. You've got a single coming out on Friday.
Yes,
it's called Nowhere on a Somewhere Road. Great title.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us about the song, the inspiration behind it, what it means, and how people can maybe check it out on Friday?
Yeah. Look forward to it Friday because no other country music coming out Friday. Don't worry about it.
I don't think anything else, any other media is coming out Friday. I'm pretty sure. I think you like blacked out that day. It's just you.
Yeah. Certainly not a whole new Tyler Childers album announced 2 days after I announced the release date of the single and submitted it.
See, I didn't even get that. I didn't even know what you're talking about. Now I know.
No, yeah, it's one of those things I definitely way overthought. It's like not like me and Mr. Childers are competing for market share or anything like that, right? People
I was going to say,
listen to me on
now
that.
you're using our platform to launch Tyler Childers' career.
Right. He could use it. God bless that guy.
I mean, we're here to help, honestly.
Yeah.
We're here.
Right.
But Nowhere on a Somewhere Road, this is a tune I wrote maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. And it's just kind of about it. I figure, if you're a songwriter, at some point you got to write a song about your hometown, right? Mm-hmm. And this song's kind of about Crown Point, where I'm from, but I figure it's kind of about a lot of places. I try to keep it relatively vague with just enough details peppered in. But it's about kind of that feeling of like arrested development. I feel like a lot of people are stuck in these days where, well, you're post high school, maybe post college, trying to figure out what you're doing next, and suddenly all your 20s disappear. Right. And it's about that sort of feeling. And, it's like trying to plan for what's next, but that involves money. So then, you end up working a job, saving up a little bit of money, and before you know it, now you're in your early to mid 30s and you still, figuring out what's happening, as I sit here in my folks' house, and blessed enough to be, because if I had to worry about trying to, make something of a music career and support myself, I wouldn't be able to do either, I figure. But yeah, I recorded the song down in Nashville with a buddy of mine, Blake Moeller, who I went to college with, and he has a production outfit he does called Mid-American Records. And I just hit him up out of the blue one day to catch up because we were in a songwriting class in college, and he did some work in Nashville as an artist, and he just, had some connections. And, I'm sure, any musician knows that you don't let a good connection go to waste, especially, if you happen to enjoy talking to the person, all the better. And we got to talking, and he says, yeah, man, just, I'll take I sent him a folder of some demos I made, and he took a liking to this one and one other that we ended up recording. And then we started talking about, well, okay, what sort of feel do you want from it? And, it's, the title is like, maybe 99% of the way towards legally actionable by Steve Earle for Nowhere Road, right? And I always love the sound of like late 80s, early 90s Steve Earle, that real twangy, baritone guitar, kind of alt country sound. So that's the direction we went with it. And it was cool because all my releases up to this point have been solo acoustic. I got 2 solo acoustic EPs, and that's still, how I do like maybe 80% of my playing. So it was cool to just have him put the track together and like, all right, we're going to put some baritone guitar on. I'll play some harmonica on it. And, it sounds entirely different than, well, not entirely, but it's just a very different feel compared to a lot of my other release stuff, certainly, but even like how I perform it live, even with my band, I'm really proud of how it turned out.
Well, you actually shared a link to it. So we've heard the song. And it's a great song. And I was wondering if you'd like to play that for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I can do that for you.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Let's see here. Boy, it's a good thing I just had this guitar sitting here.
Totally spontaneous. That's exactly.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't talk about this, not at all.
Yeah. It's like when somebody who sings is on Fallon, right? And there happens to be a guitar sitting behind the couch. But they just pull, yeah.
Yeah, we're exactly like Fallon.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't do a lot of media, so yeah. All right. You know what? For the sake of my cheap USB microphone, I won't play the harmonica part on this. You'll have to listen to the track on Friday for that. But Nowhere on a Somewhere Road. There's only two things to do in this town. That's get messed up and go fool around. And on Friday night, everybody trying to have their fun. The home main drag ain't much more than bars, and the high school kids smoking the old graveyard. And that's the place where prom baby bumps come from. 'Cause it's a stoplight, stop through, live here only if you got to. Get out of town as fast as your wheels can go. Nowhere on a somewhere road. Folks cheer for one or two football teams, 'cause we're stuck smack dab in the middle between two big cities, and we're caught between red and blue. Just out of town there's an adult store, and just an old billboard. Hell is real, Jesus he is too. 'Cause it's a stoplight, stop through, live here only if you got to. Get out of town as fast as your wheels can go. Nowhere on a somewhere road. My uncle worked the mill a couple decades back. Twist pretzels at the mall now, and he bets on the track. The mall's looking more like a mill every year. I take my girl in my car and I'd hit the road, but the car is my mother's and I'm on my own. It looks like for now I'm stuck sailing up around here. 'Cause it's a stoplight, stop through, live here only if you got to. Get out of town as fast as your wheels can go. Nowhere on a somewhere road. It's a stoplight, stop through, live here if you folks do. Save up, save face, saving for a new place. Get out of town, fast as your wheels can go. Nowhere on a somewhere road. Nowhere on a somewhere road. Nowhere on a somewhere road.
That was great.
It's a good song.
Yep. And it even had the talking in there, so
Yeah,
perfect.
definitely. It's definitely got that talking part of it.
Yeah, thanks. That's that part. So the song wasn't originally that way, but it just felt like something good to add in to kind of change the dynamics of it, right? Because when I was working with the song with Blake, he had a philosophy where he says, every 30 to 45 seconds, something different should happen sonically. Right. So that was a good way to, like, after the big instrumental break, it's a good way to kind of bring it back down before it, fires back up towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we were talking. So again, pulling the curtain back a little bit, we had a little bit of a conversation before we went live here, and we were talking about the whole Submit Hub process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my recollection of trying to do, like I said, I tried it once, and then ended up like backtracking and asking for a refund, and I didn't submit to anybody. But I remember some of the blogs or whatever I was trying to submit to. I don't remember if I saw it on there or if I was watching videos like how to get them to accept it or whatever. And it was like, you really need to have something catchy happen within like the first 20 to 30 seconds of your song.
Yeah.
You gotta have like the main thing to kick in at that like 20 to 30, like 20 to 30 seconds of the song.
You know, every good song has the chorus 25 seconds in, right? That's, yeah.
But you know, and that's part of why I backed out of it, is because I'm like, I think this might be geared towards more something like pop or electronic type music or something, and I couldn't find enough of the blogs, or like it's a mixture of like blogs and playlists and all these things.
Yeah,
I couldn't find enough that really made sense for the kind of music that I did.
Yeah, it's been a discovery process for sure, especially like there's two sides of it right now. I'm still pre-release, so it's been kind of trying to secure a premiere because based on advice from Blake, my friend who produced it, you know, he produced it for me for you know, I got the friends discount on that for sure, and then, you know, it came out sounding so good, and like I want to try and make the most of it, right? So he also gave me some advice in terms of you know, trying to get more ears on your stuff, because, you know, that's one thing is not to play music's fun. It's maybe 30% of the job at this point, right? And like, you got to be a marketing person, you got to be a booker and all that. And the networking and the marketing side of things is still a weak point for me. So I'll take all the tips I can get. And Submit Hub's been an interesting discovery process where, you have to pay to get these credits, and you use the credits to submit your songs to blogs.
Did you get some accepted or not, or you haven't heard back yet?
No, I sent out about maybe 14 to 15 submissions to try and get a premiere on a blog, and they all declined, but they all had fairly thorough and mostly consistent feedback, which was useful. You know, because I feel like it's one thing as an artist, you know, we run on compliments, right? But you can only do so much with, man, that was a great set or whatever. Like, don't get me wrong, my entire confidence of playing as an artist is based off people continually telling me I'm good at it. But sometimes you need more specific feedback, and that was useful. You know, I got pretty consistent notes about the good and the bad, or what, not even bad, but, you know, positive and negative, and, you know, reasons for declining and all that. So it's useful to take with me at least, but it was looking at it like relatively low amount of like blogs or what have yous that I could submit to that had a good genre fit, right? Because you put the genres of your song, you put like 3, and then on top of like the mood of it and all that, and it's
like country and western and
right. I think I did like country and Americana and like folk or something like that. Yeah, but it's I think I've got all I could out of it. I can pre-release, at least in terms of securing a premiere. We'll see. I'll keep trying at it to try and get on some playlists or whatever, because, you know, Lord knows the mystery of how you know, get your numbers to go up on Spotify is something we're all trying to figure out, right? And it's like on one side of it's networking and, you know, trying to make contacts with other musicians, right? It's like, well, you know, when you have a new single out, I'll share yours. If when I have one out, you share mine, and we'll try and build each other up, you know. The other side was like, you know, Spotify's the giant elephant in the room that we all got to deal with, right? And try and figure out how to make work in some capacity. So it's,
I feel like that's also a mystery that I have yet to crack, to solve.
Right.
But but you know, there's also the flip side of that, I think, where you know, there's so many services out there that like tell you that they can bump up your numbers, and you know, they can end up getting you banned because you're trying to do the only thing you know to do, to you know, to invest in your own success, and you end up getting somebody who's not necessarily on the up and up, and they're, you know, you're getting bots to stream your music or whatever. And then
I don't know what you mean. All those people in the comments on my Instagram post seem really intent on trying to help me build my music career.
I saw that. The whole promote it here. And I actually did that with Will Payne Harrison. Was I don't even remember how that joke started. but he posted something, and I jumped in there and was like, promote it here on Let's Freaking Do This podcast.
Right. Yeah,
He's
maybe
like, I
that's just
almost
the style of how you do
He's
it.
like, I almost blocked you before I realized what was
Yeah.
happening.
Right. That's a funny approach, though. That's a marketing. But I wonder how many fish bite for stuff like that, right? Surely it has to work some degree of the time, but
It has to, or those companies wouldn't exist. Like people
yeah,
wouldn't be out there trying to make it work. I don't
right.
know.
Did you get have someone reach out to you for that like songwriting scam? Right. This happened to a bunch of people I know maybe a
For
year
the
ago. Where
birthday,
yes, a birthday for their son, and it's like a fake check scam or something like that.
yeah,
I got further down that than I should before I realized, like, oh, there's something really fishy going on here. And
yeah.
thankfully, it ended up okay. But yeah,
I had seen the posts about it, and I was just like kind of getting depressed because no one had contacted me about the birthday song for their son.
right.
And then it happened. I was like, okay, all right. So I'm kind of a legitimate
Yeah,
musician.
yeah. There we
If-
go. I'm one of the boys. Yeah,
Yeah, if I'm getting contacted by scammers, then clearly,
right.
You made it. Yeah.
clearly,
Yeah. God, it's because who's got extra money you can scam out of them as songwriters. Right?
Right.
Those guys, they got more than they know what to do with.
I mean,
Just
I
sit
don't
on
know
money.
I don't know how it is for you, but for me, so far, in my career as a musician, it's mostly been, I spend more than I make. So,
Yeah,
you spend more than you make on trying to figure out how to promote, how to just record and produce your songs. Like,
yeah,
hell, like I think I've just about decided I'm just going to put out acoustic tracks for the rest of my life too, because I'm not going to spend 10 grand on a record. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to
right.
put my family in the hole for that kind of investment. So
Right. Yeah, it's tricky.
it
Yeah,
can be depressing if you let it.
definitely. Like, if you get it set in your head, like, right, that's the only way you can do this, right? Is
Right.
the traditional way of like, going to a studio and contact, and yeah, that's an easy way to lose 10 grand, right? And it's definitely, we live in an age for sure where things are more DIY these days, and it's easier than ever to get your music to sound a certain level of quality, right? Whereas before, the people who ran the studios and even like radio folks and all that, they were kind of the gatekeepers, right? But now, thankfully, it's a lot more democratized. It just means also everybody's stuff sounds pretty good, or at least a lot of it. People know what they're doing. It makes it trickier for sure. Yeah,
I mean, we've had several like self-produced people on this show, like Will.
Yeah.
He paid for recording studio space, but went in and did it himself.
Right. Yeah.
Engineered all of it.
Yeah.
And Matt, of course, does the same thing. Matt did it all himself. So
yeah, and their stuff sounds great. So
sounds phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm going to be getting in the studio next month with my band to start working on a full band thing, like James Gedda and the Big Breakfast as we go by. But yeah,
that's a great name for a band.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a dumb thing that I've put way too much thought into, because initially I was like, I've always been a big fan of band names based on a pun of the last name of the singer, right? Like Margot Price and the Price Tags, Buck Owens and the Buckaroos and all that. And so at first couple full band gigs I did, we were James and the Gedda Jobs. And then we were James Gedda and the Go Geddas. And finally, I forget where I heard it, but it was like,
those are both really good.
Thank you. Maybe if I ever need to rebrand, maybe I'll go back to them. But I don't know, at some point it popped in my head where I was just like, I'm tired of these already. I'm tired of writing them on flyers. I'm tired. So it became James Gedda and the Big Breakfast. And that's what it's been for most of the time we've been doing it. It works out pretty good. Got some real talented folks in this neck of the woods I get to work with a lot.
So this will be the first time going into the studio with these guys, with this group of people too.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some videos that we did actually in the studio that we're going to be recording it in, not with the same setup, obviously. But yeah, we did a live stream back in January when I launched my Patreon, like full band. And it's still like the only super high quality full band video I got. So that goes in like all my booking emails and such and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about your Patreon. I noticed you had you were using Patreon. How's that working out for you? And can people get the new single on Patreon?
So yeah, actually, the new single has been available to my Patreon subscribers since January.
Oh,
So it's basically kind of like an early access sort of thing where
right.
it came about as a way to get a few extra bucks in my pocket and keep me productive, because I'll sit here in this exact chair in this exact room and intend to shoot a video for a month and a half, right? And then just don't. So it's been a way on the Patreon, patreon.com/James Gedda, by the way.
Here we go.
I put out a new video every week and a new song every month that's exclusive to my subscribers. And there's a few other benefits I'm still trying to figure out. I keep meaning to get more merch made, but that's just a big upfront expense that I haven't done yet. But yeah, bottom line is every month I come out with a new song, that a new audio track that they can only hear for a certain period of time. This will actually be the first one of the Patreon songs that's getting put out publicly. And then every week I have a new video out that, sometimes just me, sometimes it's me with some friends or me from like a gig or whatever. And that'll usually stay exclusive to them for a couple months or so before I put it into like the public rotation. And it's just a way to keep me, making a good backlog of material for the portfolio. Because now there's not really a ton of my originals that I don't have some form of like video of.
Right.
And then also, gets a few extra bucks in my pocket. It's a few more tanks of gas on the way to a gig a few times a month. And that's always useful. It's not, super busy, but I think I would be more stressed if I had like 100, 150 patrons that I had to make sure I was keeping happy. Instead, it's a couple of handfuls of some good friends and fans that I feel really blessed to have supporting me and at my back, parting with their money every month just so I can continue trying to do this. And so it's a supplement for sure, but it's been really good. It's been good for keeping me working.
Yeah, I was going to ask. You said you're putting out it's a new recording of a song every month, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of like just an acoustic track of?
Some are acoustic, so it's been recordings from a few different projects I've done. So this song, "Nowhere on a Somewhere Road," has kind of a B-side that we also worked on in that same session. It's a waltz of mine called "What Am I Worth to You." And they're, those are both kind of full instrumentation, produced tracks. And then the other ones that I've put out are from just some solo acoustic sessions I've done with another former college friend of mine out in Valparaiso, Indiana, Rick Napoli of Dr. Richard's Audio Remedies. But yeah, there's the 7 tracks of that I've been putting out. And I think at some point I'll put those together for like an acoustic EP of sorts, or record a couple more for an acoustic album. But it's just been from that. And because I was sitting on a backlog of tracks, and releasing music publicly, as we've kind of alluded to, is extremely stressful. And you feel like you got to make the most of it. And if the numbers don't go higher, then what are you even doing? So this is a way of me getting music to the people who really, really support and care about my music, without having to necessarily worry about making the numbers go super high. And it's something I continuously have to think about. Like, all right, I gotta record a video for next week. I gotta get a song demo of some sort made for next month, right? And not that if I don't, or if I slack or whatever, these people are going to come kicking down my door, but it's just someone to hold myself accountable to, because I'll let myself down all day. I've seen me do it. Like this.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think a lot of this stuff sort of started during the pandemic. It may not have started during the pandemic, but it like kind of really picked up. Like steam, I guess, to have a Patreon and to have like exclusive content that you release to people. Based off of, whatever kind of tips or donations or whatever they give you.
I mean, I first saw, the first person I saw doing it was like Hayes Carl, over the course of the pandemic. He was doing live streams, and he had a Patreon going. I was like, well, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
Yeah. When you were first talking about it, I was wondering if you were kind of like trying to write new material and get it out there for these Patreon subscribers like once a month or whatever.
Right. It's not necessarily one-to-one like that, but like knowing I have to keep producing songs and stuff like that, it's a good motivator to keep writing.
Sure. You got to get something else out there. How often would you say you're writing?
I wish I could say I'm really disciplined about it, and set aside days and this and that. But generally speaking, when an idea comes to me, like especially if it's really a good hook that's kind of fully formed, I'll sit down and write it. It's not too often I like say I'm going to sit down and write a song and write it. It's more just it comes to me, a little free time and strong emotions usually combined, and then if a hook gets into my head or whatever, honestly half the time they come to me while I'm driving, so I have like a dozen just audio recordings of my phone and me tapping on the dashboard some whatever the meter is and singing, and then hopefully I'll go home and write it at some point. Sometimes I will sit down and go like, all right, I got these ideas written in Google Docs, I got these ideas done as voice memos, I gotta finish one of these. Yeah.
Are you trying to just like when you're working on a song, are you trying to do you latch onto an idea and then try to form a story around it? Or are you usually kind of inspired by like something real that's happening to you, or is it just a mixture of those things?
It's usually a mixture, right? I'm the type of person where I'll hold on to like a hurt or a negative emotion or a bad experience, and I'll just leave it in the bank for a few years for when I need it. It's because especially when you're happy and you're content, no one wants to jinx it by writing a song about it, right? So it's like when I'm going through a good mental health period, or if I'm content in my personal life or whatever, that's when I'll reach back into the folder of like, oh yeah, I remember when a girl I was dating told me I needed to be making 70 grand a year if we were going to stay together, right? And that turns into a song. And other times it's like images or little turns of phrase, that like I just try and build the rest of the song around. Like I love writing story songs, and sometimes they come from different directions, right? Sometimes you start with the hook and you work backwards into the story. Sometimes you have like a loose narrative you want to tell, and then you kind of fill in the specifics as you go. But there's not really a set way for me necessarily.
So, James, once again, Nowhere on a Somewhere Road comes out on Friday, September 30th. So it's available on Spotify, Apple Music. Where else can people find it?
It's going to be all the usual suspects in terms of streaming. It occurred to me literally earlier today. I was like, oh, I should make a Bandcamp so people can actually buy the song. I don't have one yet. That's something I need to do. To be TBA, if it'll be done by Friday or not. But follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that, and I'll post about when I got it. But just wherever you happen to listen to music, because I've even had one of my friends who's one of my subscribers on Patreon. He says, listen, man, I'm happy to support you, but I wish you were putting out these songs in places where I do listen to music and I didn't have to go into the Patreon app and play it through that. So that was a good reminder. Like sometimes even the people that support me through that means just want the convenience of listening to the song where they already listen to their music, And
on YouTube, you have a ton of music on YouTube, whether it's like cool covers or original music. Let's talk about that a little bit. You have a video. You have several videos of live performances, but you have a video. It's from your first single, "Old Reliable." Yeah, and it's kind of it's a full like official video.
Yes.
What was it like filming that video? And also, is that song based on a personal experience or something that happened to you in your life?
Kind of, sort of. Yeah. That song was on my last EP, came out a few years ago now. Bad Things Happen, but the song is All Reliable, and it's the only like narrative style music video I've ever done. I definitely want to do more of it, but it was done with a fellow named George Nix of Lakeshore Video, who also happens to be a childhood friend of mine. Sometimes you're just really blessed to have talented friends. And we sat down, we listened to the song, and we put together, kind of the song itself has sort of a story going around it, so it's easy to figure out what you want to do for it, or at least to come about it pretty literally. So we just sat there, and for each line of the song, like this second to this second, this shot, right, and this second to this second, this shot, and then fill in the rest with B-roll that we just filmed one night while I was playing a show out at the local watering hole. And it was cool to see come to life, the shooting and everything, and the small little bits of acting I had to do, which is just like, I still gotta some of my friends give me grief. It's like there's one shot where the girls walked out, and I'm leaning against the door frame, just trying to look forlorn, but I just look like I'm waiting on the bus to show up. But it was cool to put together. The actress in the video, Crystal, she's a good friend of mine, and she's actually my bass player Mark's wife. But so it was fun to do it there, and she killed it. A lot of my friends have cameos in that one. In terms of the actual song, I feel like it's a situation a lot of us find ourselves in where you might not be someone's partner of choice, but you're the one they fall back onto, right? Or maybe you're the type of person that it's while you're shooting for this other person and you're not necessarily getting where you want to be, you have someone else, they'll come over, right?
Yes, that's what we call marriage, sir.
I wouldn't know about that.
I'm old reliable, okay.
Right? No, it's okay.
It's kind of like it's a kind of you up kind of song. It's like a booty.
That was a joke, by the way.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. No, it's I introduce the song on stage when I play it. I say, this song goes out to you if you're the type of person who gets a text at about once a month at 1:30 in the morning from that certain person. It just says, "Hey, you still awake?" Like it's definitely of that kind of mood,
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the video is great because it shows, she's texting, your character, and it's, I thought it was really impressive. Is that the only video you've done like that where it's like a story?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to do more of it. And it's become like whenever I write a song, especially when I'm really into and think about releasing music, I was like, all right, what could I do for a video for this? Especially if it's a very story-centric song, it makes it a little easier. I definitely have a few ideas I'm kicking around. I have more video projects I want to do because it definitely got a certain bug about me, because we live in an age of video, right? Even like podcasts are an audio medium, but every podcast has to have video now, right? I'm sure you guys get that. Thanks
for the plug. Yeah, we're on Spotify. You can actually watch this video on Spotify. So tomorrow you'll be able to watch that. So Wednesday,
tomorrow,
we're live on YouTube now, but we'll be on Spotify tomorrow. Yeah.
It also makes, like, I don't know, like for me, maybe it's because of my age or whatever, but it also feels like when you have a video for your song, it kind of lends itself to making you feel like more like, I don't know, I've got a music video. Like,
right. It definitely, it looks nice on the resume for sure. And it's like, like this is a nice looking like music video, like MTV style music video with the narrative and all that. Yeah, it feels good to have under my belt, and it's definitely something I want to do more of because one of my focuses has always been storytelling. Even before I really started going after a music career, like in college, I majored in creative writing, which is why I'm sitting here in my parents' house at 33 years old. But I've always had a knack for like telling stories and stuff like that. And when you introduce the visual element, and then especially with the song, it can and how they play off of each other. It gives you a lot more room, even like the video that accompanied the new Childers single, was it the Angel Band? It's got the whole bit about the drunk fella going to heaven and all that and waking back up. Like there's a lot of cool stuff to do, but it's just also a matter of budget. Because if you want nice looking video and nice sounding audio and more than just you yourself in it, it's the price goes up exponentially.
Or you got to find somebody who is good at it, who just wants like some kind of fun project on the side, which is what I've lucked out on doing it.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of how the old reliable thing came about was, I do a lot of work with my buddy George, and because we've literally known each other since we were like in Cub Scouts at like 6 years old, and he still just lives like, had been living less than 10 minutes away from me. So it came about from like, he does a lot of corporate video and wedding videos and stuff like that. And that's where he makes his bank because he understands working with musicians, especially local musicians around here. You're not going to get paid super well.
Right.
So it was definitely like, helping out a friend sort of thing. But I've also been of the mind like, all right, I don't want to lean on that too much. Right. If you have talented friends, you want to be able to pay them what their talents are worth. Right. It's like, it's the reason why you don't bring the band out every gig, because if you can't pay your buddies at least,
Yep.
a tank of gas and a meal out of it, or the equivalency, then you don't want to waste their time, especially if they're also working musicians,
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is why folks like us so often end up just playing solo acoustic
Yep.
songs.
3-hour restaurant gigs. That's my bread and butter.
And it also makes it difficult to maintain a band.
Yeah.
Because you don't have anything to promise them necessarily.
Right.
For when you're looking for that next gig that's going to pay enough to actually justify bringing them out. So
right.
I know a lot of people who they just kind of tend to throw a band together when they find a gig that pays well enough.
Yeah. I definitely have my first call guys. And it's getting to the point where if I can't get at least 2 of them, I won't book it as a full band gig. I'll do a duo or something else, because it's like, I do enjoy the spontaneity of like, oh, I've only played like one show with this drummer before, but never this drummer and this bassist. So it's kind of fun. We'll see how it comes about. But then it's also like, it gives you so much more to think about when you're playing a gig. And
it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a needle to thread for sure.
Yeah. And it sends you right up into your head where that's exactly the wrong place to be when you're trying to perform.
Right. Especially when you're the jerk standing up front singing. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about your YouTube page and your YouTube channel. There's a song on there that I don't think is on one of your EPs that I really enjoy. I was going to see if you'd play it for us.
Yeah.
It's a song called Rosaline. And I think that's also a very story-based song.
Yeah.
So I got multiple questions about the song, but the first one is, so this song is it only available on YouTube right now?
Yeah. Actually, this song does have a audio recording that's available on my Patreon to subscribers there. I recorded this during those acoustic sessions, and like I said, I think at some point you don't have any sort of ETA. Those tracks will be put out in some sort of just acoustic project. But for right now, YouTube is the only public place to get this tune, or come see me play.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a really great song, and it's got a story that you tell.
Yeah.
Is there something about that? I mean, is there a personal story behind this, or is it just no? Okay.
No, this one was this song really just kind of hit me in the head when I wrote it. I was driving back from the gym and I was listening to James McMurtry's most recent album, and he's got to be one of the best storytellers working today.
Yep.
And it was just listening to those songs. I'm like, man, it's been a bit since I've written just a good story song. But I was also like in a pretty good place mentally, which doesn't always make for the best songwriting, especially, tortured, sad kind of stuff. So then it's a little cliche for a country song, but I sat there and tried to think of a guy who had the worst day imaginable. Right. And I can play the song here in a sec so folks can hear it. But that's how the details of it came about. And then finally I was like, all right, I have everything else. I just need a lady's name, because, I don't think I have any songs that are just a lady's name for the chorus.
Right.
And that's a needle that's a box you got to tick. Right. So I don't think there's even that many Rosalines out there, but it just sounded nice. It's a lot of times with my own songs, I'll categorize them in like, oh, this is my like notable song of a certain archetype, right? And after I wrote this, I don't know how many people even appreciate this, but I was like, oh, I think I just wrote my Carroll County accident, All right. Yeah, here's Rosaline. It was 11:13. I was watching the feud. Was out with your sister, celebrating good news. Then a call from the sheriff. He needed me to come out, drive a spell out to 12, 10 miles down the route. The 32-minute drive must have lasted 3 hours. Out past the stoplights, the high lines and the towers. Then I saw the sheriff, the car and the tree. Said the woman in the wreck looks like Rosaline. Rosaline, Rosaline, say it ain't what it seems. Rosaline, Rosaline, let it all be a dream. Rosaline, Rosaline, I never did find your ring. Tell me, what does it mean? What does it mean, Rosaline? The tree split that car like a weathered old blade, cuts a wrinkly tomato, leaving mess and remains, and a whole lot of blood from the seat to the rind. When I'm left to myself, that ain't what's on my mind. You was riding shotgun and some fellow was driving. Was that guy that you worked with? You told me you despised him. You both drank some vodka and done some cocaine. And when I try to sleep, I still scream out your name. Rosaline, Rosaline, let it all be a dream. Rosaline, Rosaline, say it ain't what it seems. Rosaline, Rosaline, they never did find your ring. Tell me, what does it mean? What does it mean, Rosaline? In the morning I still make the coffee for two, but I Irish mine up now the way you used to do. People around town won't stop bothering me with their pies and their prayers and their goddamn sympathy. At night the sheriff follows me home from the bar. He doesn't give me no guff, don't get out of his car. I can't drown the questions, the whys and what thens. If I was better to you, to have been out with him. Rosaline, Rosaline, say it ain't what it seems. Rosaline, Rosaline, let it all be a dream. Rosaline, Rosaline, they never did find your ring. Tell me, what does it mean? What does it mean, Rosaline, Rosaline? Say it ain't what it seems. Rosaline, Rosaline, let it all be a dream. Rosaline, Rosaline, they never did find your ring. Tell me, what does it mean? What does it mean, Rosaline? Tell me, what does it mean, Rosaline?
That's a great song. That's
Thank
a great
you.
story. Thanks for playing that. That song,
Oh, my pleasure. Glad you like it.
I've been listening to that song all week long, so it's like been in my head. It's one of those ones like I just kind of get locked in my head and
Yeah.
really enjoyed that
Thank you,
one. So
man.
thanks for doing that.
That is
I'm glad
that
you-
is your last kiss.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's another good one. Yeah. No, it's it's funny. I was having a powwow with my band and a few of my friends talking about song selection for the album. Gonna start working on next month. And yeah, I sent everybody a big list of everything I've written that's worth playing still, and with like links to songs and everything. And my lead guitar player, Jack, who's also one of the people that knows my sound the best, one of my best friends, we're going through, and I was like, I need a 6/8 song, right? But I have like 6 of them, right? I have 6 or 7 like 6/8 kind of slow songs, so I feel like we can't do all of them. I was like, got Rosaline, there's a few others, and he says, I don't know about Rosaline. I was like, why? He says, it's so sad and almost kind of funny by the end. And I get it, right? Because it's like 9/10 of the way to the old, like, if he had a dog, that
Right.
Well, I one of the lines that just struck me, because I actually hadn't heard that song before
Yeah.
just now, but one of the lines that struck me was that the sheriff follows you home at night and he doesn't get out of his car. Like, I can see that happening, and I don't know
Right.
if this is what you
That
meant it, but
feels
it's
like-
just like it's like he's following you home, just almost like to just make sure you get home, make sure you're
right.
like, that's the idea, right?
Definitely like a picture of a small town sort of thing, right? It's like,
Exactly.
well, this fella, he's the kicked puppy of the town, but gives him a wide berth. But it's also
It's
a little
like-
bit of like, it's also like, all right, this guy's had a rough go, but he's also lucky enough to where he can get away with driving drunk because he had something really bad happen to him. Right. Like
it's like the Otis and Andy Griffith. Otis, the drunk that gets they just escort him to the jail so he can sleep it off, and then they let him go the next day.
Right. Yeah. I have another song about that's kind of has a similar plot element to it, and sometimes I think about like I'll put them together in like a concept album, right, of the whole thing, because there's another plot element like, oh, the sheriff locked me up, but it just gave me a warning, and so I'll lets me out in the daylight and says, all right, just eventually you'll run out of booze or you'll die, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I like that line though, because that.
Thank you.
I can't think of any. I can't think of any songs like they're like I was joking about Last Kiss. There are definitely songs about the lover that's died or whatever. But
yeah,
but I can't think of a line like that kind of puts that same perspective on like the whole small town aspect of it, where the cops are really just like making sure you're just getting home or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. There's a funny aspect to that song too, where when I first started, whenever I write a new song I really like, I end up playing it out a lot, obviously, and like I suffer my band having to learn it on the spot at a gig because we never set aside rehearsal time. And so I played this song maybe like 3 or 4 times with my band, and it speaks to how like me as a songwriter and the front man listens to a song versus like my band just trying to learn it musically. Played it like 3 or 4 times before we get done with it. It's kind of a slow gig, and my drummer puts down his sticks after the song, goes, "Oh, she was cheating on him when she died." And I was like, yeah, that's the whole thing, right? That's why it's really bad. He goes, "Man, I thought that song was sad before." It's like, right? That's
what was it that with the guy that you told me you despised or whatever?
Yeah, right. It's the old. I'm sure we've all had a relationship, right, where it's your lady will mention a male colleague at work and be like, "I don't know about that," like not out of distrust necessarily or anything, but just out of like the insecure part of your.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also think it's funny that your drummer like doesn't listen to your lyrics.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like you haven't had the pleasure of playing a gig with me just yet, but it's sometimes playing with me, you got to be focused just enough on if I'm adding extra beats to measures, right? So that's
right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
my boy's got the work cut out for him sometimes, especially when it's a new one. And 6/8's always a funny one too, a funny time signature, because sometimes it'll just be these weird little bits where it's all even, it's all 6 until there's just a bar where it's just 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that subtle distinction between the 3 and the 6.
Yeah.
You mentioned your friend and he's your guitar player, Jack Whittle, I believe is his name. You have a lot of great songs on YouTube. That's where I listen to a lot of your music. And I guess, is he playing what is he playing, like banjo or mandolin and some of that stuff?
Yeah, sometimes he's playing banjo or mandolin. He's primarily a guitar player. And he's a killer guitar player, like pound for pound, probably the best I know. But when he plays with me and, we're just doing these little like jams at his house, he sees it as an exercise and like, all right, well, he wants to polish up his mandolin chops. He wants to polish up his banjo chops, and, I'm happy to let him do it because he just has a good musical instinct. The mandolin he's playing in a lot of those videos is one I bought originally and sold to him because I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I tried, I did a little bit with it, but I didn't have the discipline to stick to it. So I sold it to him, and, he's playing with it for 10 minutes, if that. Just, what are the strings on here? And I tell him what the strings are, and he's playing solos and runs and this and that. I'm like, all right, well, some guys just can do it instantly, so.
Yeah, it's impressive. Y'all are picking, obviously different instruments, and there's kind of like a bluegrass feel to some of those songs.
Yeah,
and
I, like a lot of folks, I love the sound of bluegrass, but I don't necessarily have the chops to play bluegrass full time, especially rhythm guitar.
Right.
But I love the feel of it, backyard style jams and all that. It's, at a certain point, you start to understand the logic behind the Grateful Dead, right? Well, we're a bluegrass band, but we're going to do a bunch of acid so we can get away with playing real slow, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Grateful Dead songs that were bluegrass were not typically those like barn burner type songs that were just like super fast paced. It was just like, it was the more like flow, going with the flow type stuff. But which is
Right.
essentially
Yeah.
my speed when it comes to mandolin or whatever too. Like especially
Yeah.
banjo, which I've been trying to play lately, and it's like
Yeah, I keep thinking about picking up a banjo. I have like one video on YouTube of me playing a banjo. I borrowed it from a buddy of mine, and I learned like one of my songs on it, and I played it, but gave it back.
Yep.
And I keep thinking like it fits more like the finger style folk stuff I've been doing more of lately. It much
Yep.
more my speed than a mandolin. So I keep toying around with getting one.
Yeah, I've been screwing with it for a while because I have to learn at least one song on the
Yeah.
banjo for a gig that I have. But
Okay.
I'm gonna put out. I have a plan right now. I'm gonna put out an acoustic EP, and we'll see how many songs I get into it. But I'm gonna put out an acoustic EP, and it's gonna have a banjo on it. And I got a friend of mine who's gonna do the banjo on it because he can actually do it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I always joke around with some of my friends. Jack, or also my buddy Mark, some of my very talented instrumentalist friends, like, oh, God help me if I ever make something of myself, because I'm just going to buy you guys all the toys and set you loose with them, right? It's like I want to give you a dobro for you to just embarrass yourself with, right? I want to like,
but you also want to, or I don't know if you're like me, but like I want to, if I have the opportunity, I've been thinking about this a lot more lately, actually, than I have before. But I really, if I get the opportunity to bring somebody else on stage with me and give them a little, like you said, like enough money for, gas and a meal and maybe a little extra to put the bank or whatever, then I want to do that. Like I don't want to, like maybe I could figure out the banjo on my own, but I'd much rather have somebody else do it and bring them along with me.
Yeah.
It's way more fun to do music together than by yourself.
Yeah. Plus, we can't all be Willie Carlisle's out here playing like 7 instruments and also being as charming as the day is long, right? Like, oh, man.
Right.
Anytime I see video of that guy, it's like, I got to catch him live. And then, of course, the one time he's coming around my area to play a live show, I'm booked in Indianapolis that night. So go figure. But, yeah. Lousy with great music to listen to these days.
That's the life you live, right? Like you don't get a chance to necessarily go see the shows you want to see.
Right. Yeah. That's yeah. Yeah. The first time I realized that's what this life was going to be, right? Pursuing a career as a songwriter and artist means working weekends and not having time to go see the shows you want to see was I had tickets. I already had tickets to go see Jason Isbell in Tinley Park, Illinois at this amphitheater for a summertime gig. And Isbell's one of my like modern heroes in terms of songwriting ability and everything. And then like the day before, I get offered a gig to play at this restaurant that I know is not going to be a good gig. And I know it's not going to be a good time, but it's making money versus spending money. And so I was like, and I was really bummed, and I was being wishy-washy all day for, I was like, you know what? Like, hey, this is what you're chasing, right? It's like, you will make time to see people at other times, but you got to work while it's being offered. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of like, I don't know, as you get older, I'm older than you, but as you get older and you have other commitments and things that come up that you might have to make another decision. Like, am I going to go take this gig that might be fun because I might get to play with some people that I really like, but I'm not going to end up making very much money.
Right.
Or am I going to do that? Or am I going to go to my daughter's soccer game?
Right. That's, No, that's tricky too. I don't have any kids myself, at least none that I'm aware of. But I do. I'm a pretty involved uncle in terms of helping raise my nieces and stuff like that. They're downstairs trying to be quiet so I can do my interview as we speak. So it's so I get it totally, because I end up having to miss a ton of stuff. So then when I can find like a Saturday afternoon off when the family's all doing stuff, and it's like that's definitely something to enjoy. And I'm starting to get more to the point where I'm saying no to more things, right? Whether it be for like, I won't do it for that price, or no, this is too far out for, this particular day or whatever, that's starting to be more choosy for sure. But
I remember I used to read, I remember like reading interviews back when I was a kid about people and like advice that seemed to get like tossed around like by a lot of people that I respected, was like, you never say no to anything. And I've been thinking about that, a lot lately. It's like, there's some things that I don't have to say yes to.
Right.
Like, I just don't have to say yes to it anymore. So advice for myself, I guess. I don't know.
No, for sure. It's kind of goes back to like, you don't want to seem too eager in certain regards either.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. A quick way to get stuck playing gigs you don't like is taking a bunch of gigs you don't like.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So James, earlier you were talking about how you had a song that kind of speaks to your experience as a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
And I think I know what that song is. If it's one that you've already released, is it a song called Talking Bar Band Blues?
It's called the Talking Bar Band Blues. Yeah.
Okay.
Another talking one. I know we were talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to play that one, go for it. But if you want to tell us something about that, I mean, that song, I think it's kind of maybe self-explanatory, but it does kind of tell the story of, your life for people to do what you do.
Yeah, I'd be happy to play it. Yeah, this one is one of my more recent ones, and when I wrote it, I thought, well, this is the most self-indulgent, whiny little piece of crap song I've ever written. But I'll play it at like a jam night where all my buddies are hanging out, and they'll enjoy it because they're also working musicians. And then wherever I play, I play this at one of my semi-regular gigs, like a bar up in Chicago for a bunch of 20-something professionals, and they laugh their asses off when I play it too. So I've come around to realizing that, everybody enjoys being able to gripe about their jobs, even guys like me and there's a joke I tell on stage. Sorry, I don't write new jokes, but, it's okay. Even guys like me who work 3 hours a night, 3 days a week. Everybody gets to gripe about their jobs. So yeah, this is the Talking Bar Band Blues. Now, friends, let me sit and learn you a pinch about hanging your life on a 1/4 inch guitar cable running through a dusty old mixing board. You might think it's fun working late nights, drinking on the job, and sometimes you're right, but the financial situation of this particular occupation I'll warn. Besides, I've been having enough trouble lately getting booked my damn self. See, it doesn't really matter how good y'all are. You'll sooner win the lottery than be a big star. You'll mostly wind up playing in smoky bars for $75 a man. $100 if the place is good. They'll say, we'd pay you more if we could, but the karaoke fella draws a bigger crowd than your band. By the way, do y'all play Tennessee whiskey? See, it's a brotherhood on the local scene. Some brothers are sweet, some brothers are mean. Some would kill for me, others wouldn't piss at me if I were on fire. Some got these cushy weekly gigs, some got wives, some got kids. Some would undercut all the rest of us just to get hired. Yes, ma'am, for the right price, we will play wagon wheel. Now I'll speak on some of the perks, because the benefits are different than your fine work. Sometimes free food or drink, sometimes you're free to fuck off if you want a glass of water. You musicians must get action all the time. Well, brother, let me blow your mind. Usually the only way you get screwed is when a bar don't want to pay you what they oughta. But I do got the story about a pig in a broom closet that'll blow your mind. Now, don't let me discourage or sway you. If you want to play music, it's the way God made you. But if you're going to gig for the love of Christ, you better charge what you're worth. I don't mean to seem an overt cynic, but this rock and roll business ain't no picnic. But it's led to some of the best times and friends I've had my years on earth. But if one more person yells Freebird, I'm going to slash your goddamn tire. Yeah,
I enjoy that one.
Bar Band Blues. Yeah, thank you, man.
I figured Jason would like that. I don't know if Jason's heard that yet, but
No.
when I heard this song, I was like, we got to have him play this one because all the things you say, I've heard Jason say to me, or some version very similar. So
yeah,
right, yeah,
yeah. I think that I don't honestly, I don't know how many of your songs, like some of the folks that I that I interact with on Twitter or whatever, that some of these working musicians have heard, but we're definitely gonna get that out there.
Right. I want to push that one out there more for sure. And talking about our little circle of dirtbag musicians on Twitter, like that's been one of the best things come out of this year for me in terms of trying to network and trying to meet like-minded folks, is because I know around me there's a lot of working musicians, but it's all manner of guys, guys that play in jam bands, guys that play in blues bands, guys that play in dad rock cover bands that gig out every weekend. But it's just around here in Northwest Indiana, not even getting into Chicago. There's all manner of guys that make their entire living playing music around here. Let alone in more music focused cities like Nashville and Austin and places like that. But
what's funny about the Austin area is that the people who make money who live here don't play here.
Yeah. Right. It's kind of like Nashville too. You don't hardly get paid in Nashville from what I hear. It's like you go there to network. But Twitter was maybe my most neglected social media platform. I had it for like a decade, and I would use it to keep up with the news, but I wouldn't tweet anything because nobody followed me.
Right.
But then I started following guys like South Texas Tweak and Matt Moran, and guys like that who just have a very witty social media presence that also happen to play music. And then I start to dig into them and find more folks like Will Harrison, and it's like there's this whole undercurrent of working Americana country roots musicians, and it's like I'm not trying to necessarily put myself directly in their company, because like I said, I'm still pretty local, working on getting more regional, and then ideally get to a point where I can play anywhere I want. But it's like it's encouraging to know it's not just it's not just like you're playing locally or you're on the Grand Ole Opry, right? And it's like this whole past decade, it's been good for our kind of music in terms of folks that can make a good living with it, and folks that can play anywhere they want in any market they want to, and there will be a room full of people that know all their songs, right? I think I first started becoming aware of that with Justin Townes Earl right after I got out of college. I was like, man, this guy seems like he's doing exactly what he wants to do. And so networking with other folks on Twitter has been really good, and seeing, it's like, all right, well, this is how they're doing this, and I could stand to do this, right? It's like finding ways to use the evil of social media to your benefit, right? Like South Texas Tweak is very funny on Twitter. Matt Moran has a great TikTok, things like that. There's little lessons to be learned for sure.
Yeah. So South Texas Tweak was actually the first one to retweet when I posted after we went live tonight.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
What's up, Tweak?
And he's a part of that little group. Like, I mean, I had a similar experience with you where I had Twitter for a long time. We've talked about Twitter a lot on this show.
Yeah.
But rightfully so, because this is how you met all these people.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Seriously, James is our 11th guest on our show, and every one of the people that we've had on this that you booked on this show, Jason,
has all been because of Twitter. Except for Russell, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we can't include Russell on that because I've known Russell for a long time. But but it's been nothing but positive experiences for me on Twitter once I became actually engaged in the media on over the past year or so.
Yeah.
Actually less than that, really. But yeah, I popped off and became kind of obnoxious on social media, like jumping on on people's posts and replying and like asking them if they needed a fiddle player, and then next thing you know, I was booking gigs with Tweak and Zach Welch and stuff like that.
That's great. So. Yeah, it's. I wish I'd have thought of the angle of just starting beef with another songwriters to get more attention, like Will Harrison and Matt Moran. That's a good angle. It's
great. It's the greatest rivalry in sports, and it's not even in sports.
Right.
Like
and Matt's got that whole boob glasses thing, and now he's piggybacking on the whole Dahmer.
Right. Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer miniseries or whatever it is.
He needs to just put out a single. like within the next few months or something, and just like, or like an EP or so, I would just call it Matt Moran Killer, and it's just like him with his glasses like dead on the camera, looking serious, and it's a hope to confuse people. Have his name real small and the word killer real big.
Oh
and,
my God, he could totally. You could write any song about anything and call it Killer. Like, he's gonna do that.
Yeah.
That's very media savvy right there.
Right. I mean, at a certain point, you got to turn into the skid.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about all that, like the fact that you have to become a social media expert, and you have to become all the things that people do as musicians at this point in, I don't know, our culture or whatever. But, it's funny because, like, I think every business has to do these things. It's just that when it comes to musicians, we kind of get paid so little, and we're such a small, like, company, so to speak. Like everybody's his own kind of island. That we have to become these experts of our own making.
Right.
And somebody like like Matt, who's like, it seems to be like, just has such a knack for it, for the social media and picking up on exactly, like, he puts all the silly videos and puts the shit with the audio, like on Instagram and stuff, where he's pairing his own videos, where he's just like like with whatever song is playing in the background.
Right. That's smart. It's being more media savvy than you would even think. Yeah. And I've tried, I have a TikTok. I've tried making use of it, but it's like, I'm too lazy to come up with like original videos just for that. Right. And it's like, I would just take my normal videos that are, widescreen format and just put them there on TikTok, and, people wouldn't hardly watch them because they want stuff that feels like it's just for that platform, and like, I tried doing one kind of like funny quote unquote thing just to see if it would do numbers, and it didn't. I was like, well, that was irritating. I don't want to do it anymore, but it's
like, you're a songwriter, you're a musician, you want to put videos of your own songs and stuff and put it out there, and you put it on there, and you put a lot of time into like crafting this song, and you make sure you get a good sound and a good video of yourself doing it, and you post it out there, and like, crickets. It's because you didn't have boob glasses.
I thought about wearing my boob glasses shirt on this, but I was like, I don't want to seem like a suck up. But it's funny. It's like,
no, I love that dude. I freaking love that.
It's a good shirt. Yeah,
it's a good shirt.
He's a good dude. Yeah,
he's a genius when it comes to this stuff, and his music is incredible. It's great.
Yeah,
and he does it all himself. He makes it himself. He writes it, records it, produces it. Like, he masters it himself.
Yeah.
Like,
and then you meet him, and he's a nice person. Like, where's the hell's he get off?
Except for that he doesn't take a shower, so that's the only thing.
Well, when I was down in Oklahoma, I stayed at his brother's house, not his. So,
there you go. So those must have been great shows in Oklahoma with you and Matt playing. Like,
it was fun. There was just two of them. We're trying to line more stuff up for like late January, early February, for when he's planning on coming up this way. Still figuring all that stuff out, but. The first one we did was just like song swap, which we don't do a ton up here. Even if it's more like a roots focused bill, it's still just like, no, this is your set, this is their set. This is a lot more casual. Just I'd play a song, talk about it a little bit, and he'd play something that reminded him or whatever, and that was a good time. Also a good way of breaking the ice with somebody that you hadn't actually met before. And then the show the next day was at the Blue Note in Oklahoma City. And it was a multi-act bill. Zach Crow Band was also on that, and they were killer. But unfortunately, I couldn't stick around to see Matt's performance that night. I just had a little 45-minute acoustic set. But I had to take off because I booked myself the very next night at about 6 p.m. in central Illinois, coming from Oklahoma City. Okay. So I had my work cut out for me. I had to drive about 900 miles in 18 or so hours. So I just had to take off after my set.
That is tough.
I mean, I've never really hit the road for multiple days in a row before, and it's something I want to do more, but especially when you're by yourself, it's just, you want to take the gigs where you can get them, as we've talked about.
Right.
But I didn't realize until I was plotting out the route for these 4 days. I was like, oh man, this is 4 days and like 2,200 miles. And I'm definitely going to have to sleep in a truck stop like 2 of these nights.
Wow.
Yeah.
and you don't know. I mean, I have no idea what these gigs paid, but you book these things, and I feel like half the time you're kind of taking a gamble on it because I've never done that either. I've never gone multiple nights on the road either. I just I'm planning one in the next month or so, but it's
right. It's fun. Like I've never really had to because there's any number of places I can play at within a 2-hour drive to my house, and if it's within 2 hours, I can go back home.
Exactly.
Like I want to get out further, and it's a bit more about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. But I did pretty good on that run between tips at other gigs, and then Matt took good care of me. God bless him. So yeah, it ended up being good. I was a little worried about it. It was more just the amount of drive time I spent. It was like I said, like 2,200 miles in 4 days of driving, and my back was sore, and also a lot of just gas station coffee and crappy fast food like this.
Right. Yeah. Which I think is like it's the staple for every traveling musician. It's just
for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But
so speaking of gigs, let's talk about some of your upcoming shows. And and for those who are watching, I grabbed this from your website. You have a great website.
Yeah.
It's jamesgeddamusic.com.
Yes, sir.
So you're playing, like you said, Northwest Indiana, Chicago. Talk about some of these upcoming shows.
This Thursday, I'll be, for anybody listening happens to be in my area, I'll be at the Thornton Distillery in Thornton, Illinois, with my friend Al Joseph on fiddle. He's a killer player, super nice guy. And if you're in the Chicagoland area and never been to the Thornton Distillery, it's a cool place. It's a super old building. I think it's like something like 150, 200 years old or something like that. And it's kind of giant and labyrinthian, super atmospheric. So yeah, if you're in the area and you don't got anything to do Thursday night, come by and check us out there. Then on the 7th, I'll be at, I won't go down the whole list, but it'll be my first time on the 7th of October playing at Charcuterie in Griffith, Indiana with my buddy Mark Adrian, who is usually my bass player, but in this situation, he's going to be sitting in on lead guitar for me. He's predominantly a guitar player. So that'll be a good time. Looking at these other ones, if you're in Chicago more directly, I play at least once a month at a place called Irish Eyes. And in this case, I'll be there October the 14th, and it's in Lincoln Park. It's a cool bar. They always take good care of me there. I always play, 9:30 to 1, 10 to 2, hours like that. And it's a good time. It's then at the end of October, I'll be doing a couple days. They aren't all on my website yet because still trying to figure some details out, but I'll be heading down to the Indianapolis area with my buddy Jack Whittle for some duo stuff. And then we'll also be playing a trio in Indy, I believe on the night of the 22nd of October. I forget the place off the top of my head, and it's apparently not on my website as I can see. But we'll be playing a trio with me, Jack, and harmonica player. That's going to be a good time. So I definitely try and stay busy, and I put all my gigs on my website and on bands in town, and also on my Facebook, which I unwillingly stick to having. The elephant in the room in terms of being a local musician. Like, yeah.
I think being any musician, you just have to have it.
Yeah, right. And like the whole reason I even still have a personal page is to send people to my music page.
Right? Because they won't let you have just a business page.
Right. Yeah. But don't need to get into that. Don't need to give Facebook their time.
You mean Meta?
Yeah, it's
Meta. Yeah. You.
Right. Yeah. But I'm staying pretty busy. It's funny because this has been a good busy summer of music. I feel this feels like the first full summer music season since the pandemic. And it's been busy. I've had, 6 gig weekends. I've had, 2-a-days and all that. And it's funny because it's meant a lot of me, like I said, eating on the go. And then also, within the last year, I've lost a decent amount of weight. And that means I've been hitting the gym with a buddy of mine. It also means missing a lot of workouts, right? So I keep thinking like, all right, well, things will slow down here. Things will start slowing down. And now it's getting in October and things aren't really slowing down still. So it's good. To quote Isbell in one of his songs, thank God for the work, obviously. But, it's a certain point, like, this is supposed to be when I slow down and I can concentrate on booking in the spring, right? Like,
yeah,
but it's been good. Yeah. And anybody listening, if you're in the Chicagoland area, Northwest Indiana, it's hard not to find me somewhere. So
very cool.
Yeah.
James, before we get out of here, would you like to play another song?
Yeah, I'd love to. Let's see here. I'll do this one. I feel like this is another good one for this crowd. If I can be forgiven for doing another 6/8 song in G, but this is when I did that song swap with Matt down in Oklahoma. This was one of my originals that seemed like it hit him right in the chest. And when you're a songwriter, you got to take note of what your other songwriter friends grab onto, right? And this may be another slightly low-hanging fruit because it's about a guy that sits in the dark and listens to sad folk music, and look at where I am now. But I definitely want to get this. This is probably going to be on my full band album that I'm going to start recording next month, and I definitely want to do a video of some type for this one. This is a song called Towns. And to continue the motif, I think this is my Angel from Montgomery, if I may, not break my arm, pat myself on the back. Tonight's looking like one of those. Stumbled in and he tore off his clothes. Fell into the den with just jeans and an old record crate. I think he hides liquor in there, in the ceiling, and he climbs on a chair. But he locks the door when he comes home in this state. He's not gonna come out and tell me what's wrong. His father beat into him that a man should be strong. He hung up on his mother and he won't talk to me. Maybe he just needs a friend. He's listening to Town's goddamn Van Zandt in the dark again. Lord knows that he's got his pain, that he might not be equipped to explain. And the last thing I want is to get into some kind of fight. But Walt needs some help with his math, and I've got to give Sherry her bath. And she's asking if Dad's gonna come in and kiss her goodnight. He's not gonna come out and tell me what's wrong. His father beat into him that a man should be strong. He hung up on his mother and he won't talk to me. Maybe he just needs a friend. He's listening to Town's goddamn Van Zandt in the dark again. He's not gonna come out and tell me what's wrong. His father beat into him that a man should be strong. He hung up his mother and he won't talk to me. Maybe he just needs a friend. He's listening to Town's goddamn Van Zandt in the dark again. He's listening to Town's goddamn Van Zandt in the dark again.
That was great.
Jesus
Thank you.
Christ.
Thank you. That's a tune of mine called Towns.
That's not one. I haven't heard that one yet. So that was very cool.
Yeah, that's a relatively recent write of mine. And I think right now the only video of it is Patreon exclusive. But like I said, usually with the Patreon videos, in a few months, I rotate those back out public. But yeah, that's one of those where it came about real quick. And it was kind of, usually I have to have like a honeymoon period with songs, decide if I like them or not, if I'm gonna keep playing them or not. After I wrote that one, I was like, no, that I don't know where the hell that came from. But yeah, that's a keeper for sure.
That's
no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Like, that's really good.
Thank you. Thank you. It's, you know, and it's funny with story songs, you know, sometimes you have where you want the plot to go and this and that fully formed. The whole angle of it being from the perspective of the guy's wife instead of from him, that didn't come about till I was like 2/3 the way through that song. Right. It was just, I had the bits and pieces and certain lines. And I was like, oh wait, that's a good angle to come at this from. You know,
you say his father beat it into him and he doesn't talk to his mother. So clearly it's not his parents talking.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
the perspective of the spouse. Man, that's good. That's so good.
Thank you. Yeah. Cause it's, you know, a different angle on what, you know, at a certain point we all relish in sad songs. Right. And it's good. It's a healthy outlet for negative emotions, but sometimes it can also turn into like wallowing in it. You know, and it's,
yeah, that one kind of hit me in the chest too, buddy.
I'm sorry, man. That's
It's kind of speechless all of a sudden.
It's just kind of, it's just like it feels almost personal.
Right. No, I hear you, man. Yeah, it's I mean, I know I'm not the only one who sat in my bedroom and listened to like Nothing and, you know, like Poncho and Lefty and Miss Carousel and stuff like that, just with nobody else in the room, right? Just yeah. No, that's
yeah. So
yeah.
So I gotta come over to your Patreon and get that video.
Right. Now I'll send you the link. You guys have been good to getting me on here. That's fine. You guys get media access.
There you go.
See the perks.
The perks
of having a pod.
Yeah, that's why we do it. It really is why we do it. Honestly, it's not for the perks, but it's for the sake of being able to get introduced to people like you, have conversations like this, have conversations. You know, I feel like honestly, it feels like the kinds of conversations that fans all over the place. You know, you talk about Jason Isbell or whoever. You know, that, like people pay lots of money just to get in line and take their picture with them.
Right.
And I kind of feel like these conversations that we have with folks on this show, it's like these guys are going to be in that position and we're having those conversations now before you get to that position where somebody's having to stand in long lines and pay lots of money to just have like a 5-second conversation with them.
Right.
And these are far more meaningful conversations, I think, than what you'll have in that line.
Man. Yeah. I'm happy to come on here and have a platform, you know, talk about, you know, music and songwriting and all that, you know, espouse some of my viewpoints. And, you know, because so often it's, you know, conversations about this sort of thing, especially when you're like out and about or at a gig or whatever, they're very surface level, you know, and it's good to be able to pick the brain, guys, you know, talk about what brings me to do what I do, but then also, you know, the more general stuff about, you know, where we're at with this kind of music right now and making a living as a working musician, because there's no real tutorial for it, you know, where like you start figuring it out on your own until you realize you're not on your own. And there's a whole population all over the country of folks that are trying to do this exact same thing, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, James, as we're kind of getting out of here, would you like to plug your music, plug your social media? Just tell the people how they can find you.
Oh, we should share how we can pre-save that single coming out.
Yeah. That's it's not an easily abbreviated link, but it's like,
yeah. Well, we should do it as a pod after we get off here. We should retweet it or something.
Oh yeah, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, because Nowhere on a Somewhere Road, the first song I played here tonight, that's coming out as a single with kind of a, like I said, like a Steve Earle, circa like 1989 kind of sound to it. That's coming out Friday on all the major music services. And otherwise, you can just follow me at James Gedda, Gedda, on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. And I try and stay pretty busy on there. And if you're from somewhere else and you haven't heard of me and you want me to play in your neck of the woods, reach out to me, because I'm trying to get to more places. There's a lot of places I haven't played my music that I'm down to. So, yeah, getting the word out. Follow me on the various places, making my numbers go up on social media, which, like I said, is like 40% of the job at this point. I appreciate it, but otherwise, yeah, Nowhere on a Summer Road comes out Friday. If you really like my sound, I got a Patreon, patreon.com/James Gedda. Otherwise, just jamesgeddamusic.com for everything.
Yeah, it's a great website. And
Thank
obviously,
you.
I got a lot of information from that site and images and all kinds of stuff. So, James, we
I
really
appreciate
appreciate having you on, sharing your music and your stories with us. It was honestly, it was awesome.
Thank you, man. I had a good time meeting you guys and talking to you. This just came back through a random DM on Twitter, and now already looking forward to every time I got something out, I'm going to bother you guys about coming on here.
We're ready, man. We're ready to book you.
Great.
So
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
I appreciate you guys.
Thanks to James for joining us, and we want to thank everyone who's watching now or later on YouTube. And hey, if you're watching us, do us a favor, like this video and subscribe to our channel.
Yeah.
Because the more people that see this video, it helps us, but it also helps artists like James. Like we want to get his music out there to as many people as possible. So please like and subscribe. That really helps us. We're also available on podcast platforms like Spotify and Anchor. So follow us there, rate and review us. That also helps.
Yeah.
And we're also, social media is a necessary evil, and we're definitely evil because we are we're on Instagram and Twitter. Please follow us.
Yeah.
We're at LFDT Pod, again at LFDT Pod. So Jason, do you have any final words?
I don't know. I guess all I'm thinking about is that Townes Van Zandt song, and now I'm just like, I got to go back and listen to this over and over again. Like that song hit me in the same way, almost in the same way of hearing Jason Isbell's Elephant the first time. Like that.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
Holy crap!
We all know where we were the first time that bastard Jason Isbell played Elephant. We heard it like that.
I had not heard it before this episode, and that's definitely the most like breathtaking song so far of our 11 episodes. So
yeah, thank you, man.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll send
that's
you a
all
link
I had
to
to say. Just
like the rest of y'all, if you want a link to that one, you got to subscribe to the Patreon for now.
There you go.
That's right.
It's like all I could say is I just got to kiss James's ass a little bit more, but that's it.
Listen, we all need our ass kissed every now and then. I appreciate it. It's a nice beard you got, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So James, once again, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And again, for James and for Jason, this is Justin saying we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.